Good morning and aloha everyone from Hawaii. My name is Desi Bartlett and this is my week 6 synthesis video. Before I jump into the topics and the bullet points, I just wanted to show you a little bit. This is my yoga studio. This is the big wall where I teach, and I do a lot of Instagram lives, podcasts, etc. The name of my brand is Desi Body Mind, and I chose that name because in the practice of yoga, we recognize that the body and the mind are not separate. They're united, they're partners, they're integral. And when there's dis-ease or discomfort in the mind, that can manifest in the body and vice versa. So just a real simple example of that. I remember after my second son was born, I had shingles, and I went to the doctor and I didn't know what it was. And she said to me, are you under a tremendous amount of stress? And I said, no, I just had a baby. I'm super happy. And she said, oh, tell me about that. And I said, it's my second baby and I work and life is great. And she was so smart and kind and said to me, the body can't distinguish between good stress and bad stress, positive stress and negative stress. So having a baby, especially a second child, and this big life transition, just caused some chaos in my body. And so it was just really fascinating to see there's a direct correlation. But I digress. So let me jump into the bullet points for this week. What are some of the common themes across the assigned readings? Some of the common themes, mental health awareness, of course. I thought it was interesting that the articles got into different demographics, especially in terms of ages and college age students. I went to college. I did my undergrad and my master's program 25 years ago. So it's interesting to see how are college age students different now than when I was originally in school? And I can't even imagine, to tell you the truth. My husband's from Michigan, and just seeing the shootings the other day, as well as the shootings that are happening across our country. And then that's coming on the heels of a pandemic. So the amount of stress and depression is just, it's a lot. And I'm really happy that we're talking about stress techniques in this class. I think it's something that could benefit everyone. What are your perceptions of the behavior change session this week? Okay, so speaking about mental health across different demographics, especially as it comes to age brackets, I worked with my son again. He's 14, and it was interesting with the coaching session. I'm gonna criticize myself here. So I was talking about trans-theoretical model, and I was talking about SMART strategy, and I kind of I got him a little jumbled, and then I had to pull back, and then I realized, the importance of listening, because he was so clear. He said to me, Mom, I wanna meditate, and I want to do it at the beach. Perfection. So I'm really appreciating the ability to kind of step back and maybe not so worry so much about must hit each category in the actual session, as really being receptive and listening to his input, because honestly it was brilliant. Also, it was really cute because at the end he told me the SMART strategy. He remembers the acronym now. What are the implications for your personal life and or professional work? This is all supporting everything that I do. Again, I'm all about mental and physical health and wellness and how they are interdependent. I think that's also something that needs to be addressed in our industry. I talk with a lot of personal trainers who in some ways feel like therapists because they're holding space, right? They're working with someone who's moving emotion through their body. Literally, as there's motion in the body, it moves. And so it's common for any of you who have ever worked as a trainer, I did that for many, many years, to hear what's happening in their life, your client's life, their marriage, how they are as parents, all the things. So I think it's really important that we just have some basic strategies for when we need to create healthy boundaries, for when we need to support them and just listen, and for also when we need to like say, hey, that's beyond my scope, lovingly. How prevalent are mental disorders? These numbers were really impactful. I read, I think it was the CDC document that said up to 50% of people are diagnosed at some point in their life. And I work a lot also with pre, peri, and menopausal women. And goodness gracious, I hear so many women whose doctors say like, oh, let's just give you an SSRI. Like, let's give you, an antidepressant. Okay. Like, I'm not anti-medication, but can we also look at her hormone levels and her life and her movement and like 5 other things first? Just my personal opinion. What is the impact of depression on both the individual and on society? So we live in Hawaii. We moved here from Los Angeles. I lived in LA for 20 years. The mental health crisis in Los Angeles is enormous, and there are tremendous strains on not only the hospitals, because there's no more like mental health hospitals. You remember like I think it was like the 50s and 60s, people used to talk about there were mental health hospitals. They didn't sound great, it was usually referred to as some sort of institution. But now what we're seeing, especially in LA, was that a lot of people suffering with mental health challenges wound up in jail. And so the jails were getting overcrowded, and then they decided to let a lot of people out onto the street who hadn't committed felonies. It's just a lot. And the strain economically, emotionally, physically, physical attacks on people, that's just on the one side. On the other side, I also have compassion for all the people who are suffering. Think about if you're suffering with mental health challenge, if it's sort of maybe a little bit less on the spectrum, and maybe there's just some mood swings or some feeling low. We have tools, and a lot of people don't even know what those tools are, let alone when we get over into things that are much more serious, like panic disorder and severe anxiety and depression. So there's a strain and a toll on people individually and on society as well. What are some effective treatments for depression? I'm going to start with movement. If we get our bodies moving, and again, it's emotion. When we're in motion, we can let emotions move through us. I think that helps a lot. Also, breathing techniques, meditation. When we get into medication like SSRIs, just making sure that, that's accompanied by something like talk therapy, so that you're not just medicating. There's also a place and a safe space to let things out. All right, I think I've gone way over my time here, but I did want to just mention Dr. Andrew Huberman, who I follow on YouTube, did an interview recently with another doctor, Dr. Sarah Gottfried, and they got really, really deep into hormones as it relates to depression. And because my work is so focused on women, that was just a fascinating podcast for me. So I'll drop that in the notes down here in case anyone wants to check it out. It was the most extensive and comprehensive discussion that I had heard about the role of hormones as it pertains to anxiety, depression, and emotional health. All right, thanks. Have a beautiful week.